Solutions Review presents Inside Jam, the home for the human conversation.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Jam Live. My name is Jonathan Paula, the Director of Multimedia and Events here at Solutions Review, and I am very excited to close out our week-long coverage of human development focus and the impacts of AI. We have a great star-studded lineup to close things out, sponsored by Zelenic. Monica, Angelo, Doug, Catherine, Kunal, and Paul, welcome to the panel. Excited to have you here. Monica, you've agreed to moderate, so how about you start us off with some introductions?
Sure, guys. So I'm Monica Bond. I'm the founder of Search Atlas Group. And we, this AI arms race in our industry, we're really at sort of like the eye of the storm, eye of the hurricane. We have been trying to automate marketing. That was our mission for the last 7 years. And now we finally have the tools to be able to do it. So with Search Atlas, we're automating as much of the groundwork as we can of digital marketing. So that means building sites, running ads, optimizing and automating SEO on page, off page. And so it's been a great boon having all this new technology and the industry moving and racing ahead as fast as it has. It's also been kind of maddening. And I think, I'm curious to hear from the other panelists on this call what their experience has been over the last 2 to 3 years, as it feels like things are moving faster and faster. As soon as we accommodate one massive transformation to the way that these agents are capable of running, there's a new breakthrough. And it just seems like we're on this exponential curve. So it's been very exciting. It's also been sleep depriving and quite a year.
Yeah, thank you. Angelo Biasi, I'm the founder and CEO of solvably-incredibly.ai. We are transforming education and workforce with the first performance-based active learning and custom certification platform of its kind for AI, HI, human intelligence, and innovation. So essentially, learners work in teams, whether they're students or employees, workforce, solve for a real-world challenge or problem, create a deliverable, authentically evaluate their own performance and durable skills. And then our AI engine, Incredibly.ai, evaluates and assesses all of that learning as a performance to give us deep insights into skills, competencies, deliverable feasibility, innovation, implementation. It's really quite fascinating. So we've been innovating and disrupting education and workforce training and assessment and custom certification.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time. Doug, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Hello from Portugal, where I moved last year. I am a lot of people know me as a recovering Gartner analyst, a longtime Gartner analyst. I published the book there called Infonomics on how to manage, measure, and monetize data as an actual asset. So most of my work with organizations from vendors to enterprises is helping them generate more value from their data, understand and measure that value, and increasingly help them generate and activate AI-related use cases. I also teach. I'm a visiting professor at University of Illinois, Carnegie Mellon, where I teach classes on infonomics and on data strategy. I also published in Forbes and working on some other books maybe I'll talk about.
I am a former educator, teacher, and high school principal, and was in ed tech for about 10 years in various companies like Oracle, Google, WeWork, et cetera. And then most recently, for the last year and a half, I was the administrator of artificial intelligence for the Orange County Department of Education. And right now, I advise schools, districts, and mostly smaller companies on how to reorganize your thinking, your leadership, your organizational strategy around agentic AI, and how you can actually learn a lot about human organization by seeing how these agents are organizing themselves. I'm also the author of our incredible Fragile Moment, which is my third edition of the AI Parent. I've been deep in parent. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you and welcome to the show. Dr. Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Really looking forward to this conversation. So I'm an industrial organizational psychologist by training. I did my PhD in the trust and adoption of GenAI I like to say I was studying GenAI before ChatGPT was publicly accessible. So pretty fascinating to see how things have changed over the years, and timely to be having this conversation today. I currently work as a research scientist for SAP SuccessFactors and lead out some of our AI research streams, which really span the gamut of a lot of different topics, including, of course, agentic AI.
Absolutely. All right. And last but not least, our presenting sponsor, Paul. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm Paul. I'm one of the founders and the CTO of Venlytic. Venlytic is an analytics agent that can go and answer questions about your data and help people in businesses make better decisions, more informed, without waiting in a queue to talk to a human data analyst all the time.
All righty. This is going to be a great discussion. I'm going to step out of the way so the six of you can have it without interference. Monica, please take it away.
Perfect. So guys, I think, a lot's been said about AI, and I'm really curious. Why don't we start by just going around the room? And I'd love to ask you guys, what do you think the public, in terms of the industry as a whole, what do you think we got right and what did we get wrong about our predictions around AI? Angela, you want to start?
Yeah. A couple of things. This overnight job apocalypse didn't exactly happen. I do think it is still about to happen. Was one thing that was pretty interesting. And then in the education space, that AI would replace all teachers, and become the AI tutor. It seemed to be, one of those things that seemed inevitable, but never really came to fruition. And the other thing that I think we maybe either didn't get right or that we have yet to evolve and learn is the human component. That AI, as I like to say, as the Ozempic pill, is not entirely the best outcome. And then when human intelligence and AI are combined, that the outcomes are that much greater. So I think those are the things that we still are yet evolving or perhaps didn't get right from the onset.
Interesting. And Doug, what's your take on that?
I'm often reminded, I was going to say this for later, but I'm often reminded of the words of one of the fathers of AI, Marvin Minsky, who was a mentor of mine back in my early days in the expert systems world in the late 80s and early 90s, where he said, reminded us that we're in the 1,000 years between no technology and all technology. And you can listen to what experts say, but remember that we are all ignorant savages. So, yeah,
some more than others.
Yeah. I think, we've overestimated the capability and underestimated the dependency. Gen AI, I think, became a crutch before it became a craft. A lot of the failures were weren't technical. They were failures in expectation setting and governance and data readiness. And then yet workers adopted AI faster than organizations adapted their operating models. I'm having a big debate on a LinkedIn thread right now. It's got 20,000 people on it. And, I challenged somebody who said that we need to be redesigning human workflows. And I'm like, that's like redesigning, an aircraft to flap its wings and eat worms and rest on tree branches, or, paving cow paths. We need to entirely rethink workflows and processes, not replace them, replace the existing limited human ones with AI.
Sorry, you're saying you think that we need to do that replacement, or that it's going to happen on its own?
We need to rethink and redesign, not just replace them with AI, because the current processes and workflows that are in place today are based upon the limitations of humans, not the capabilities of AI.
I completely agree with that, Doug. That's super aligned with some of our teams.
Probably researched it for years.
Yeah, exactly. It's a point well taken. If I can kind of expand too in terms of, what we got right, what we thought maybe wouldn't have happened. I think it's really been interesting to see this trust and adoption lag. I think there was so much initial adoption of tools like ChatGPT, but then we look at enterprise and it's not playing out the same way. So I think, what can we take from that more consumer space and translate into enterprise offerings? One that really comes to mind is all these personalized features that different AI tools are able to bring back to folks. So of course, I'm a psychologist. people are interested in themselves. They want that, fun little self-reflection, that mirror back to get them engaged with the tool, at least as like a first trust building step. So I think there could be something.
Interesting. And Paul, I'm curious from your experience, because you're building agents that do data science and data analysis and analytics. Were you surprised at the capabilities of these agents to process that type of information? And when was sort of that aha moment for you where you really saw that come to life?
Yeah, it's incredible what the agents are capable of doing. I think to go back to your first question a little bit on like what things we've gotten right and what things we haven't, I think people in general have either both overshot and undershot the capabilities of these models. So the overshot would be the take that, we're almost at AGI, there's going to be no jobs. Like, we have this exponential takeoff coming. That obviously hasn't happened. But then simultaneously, like these models are incredibly valuable. And we're just in the bottom of the first inning in terms of figuring out how that value like plays out to businesses. So, Catherine, like to your point, enterprises have adopted AI in a really big way, but only in two areas. In code generation, if you look at companies like Cursor and Claude Code, and in customer support, if you look at incredibly fast-growing companies like Sierra or Decagon. So, but it's kind of limited to those two areas now. And there's tons of other areas that this technology can be impactful inside of big businesses, but it just hasn't gotten mass adoption yet. So there's a lot of really early things and a lot of exciting potential there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what's interesting is a lot of people early on, I think, underestimated how quickly it would improve and its capabilities, how far they would span.
Totally.
So if you're using Claude Opus, 4.5, it now is capable of writing incredibly advanced code, highly accurately with limited debugging. And engineers resisted that and pushed back into, we're not going to get to that place for years and years. And here we are, far faster than many of them even thought that it would happen. And so you see the expansion rate of intelligence and capability far from like the original scaling laws, right? When we look back at the first 3 scaling laws from DeepMind, when they released their research on this, and we've come so far in that progression of kind of moving up the ascension path toward full AGI. And the capabilities are incredibly exciting. I think as far as endgame of this, I like to look at science fiction. I think a lot of the science fiction predictions, like people like Isaac Asimov writing fiction like The Machine at the End of Time with the multivac. I don't know if you guys have ever read that short story, but it's almost exactly happening the way that he described it. And so I think as people are starting to look out and see in the long term, I think they're underestimating the capability, and in the short term, sometimes overestimating how much things are going to change. And as far as like the labor market, I don't know if you guys have seen the unemployment rate, but it's climbing 10 bips, 20 bips, month over month over month over month. Yeah. And I think many economists were not predicting that we would see that happen this year. They were thinking that this might happen maybe next year or the following, but I'm tracking that closely, and I'm honestly very surprised to see already that happening. And so that's sort of a societal shift that we're standing by and watching. Yeah,
I would push back on that short-term increase in unemployment being directly the result of AI. Companies had a massive glut of hiring in 2021 and 2022, and there's just digestion that happens there. Like if you look at the hiring curves, it's like 2021, 2022 went like this, and then it went back down. So it's like that's got to work itself out somehow. So it's not that none of it is AI, but I think people underestimate that hiring glut because that was a huge amount of hiring.
There's still perhaps some underpinning here about this, the AI capabilities increasing. There's a really cool study done by the Berkeley Machine Intelligence Research Institute, and they came up with this new metric called the 50% task completion time horizon, and that is the time humans typically take to complete a task that AI models can complete with 50% accuracy. And this time horizon has been doubling since 2019, every 7 months. Doubling every 7 months. It's like a new Moore's law for AI. And so, this definitely speaks to AI being able to replace humans and human workflows and processes at a really fast rate.
I think on that, one of Manik's really interesting points was that we consistently underestimate the capabilities, but then those capabilities hit and they don't change things in exactly the way that we expect them to. So I think if we had seen like to your point, Anik, like Claude Opus 4.5 at code generation in 2023, we would have said this is general intelligence. Like this thing is smart. Like we should just give the keys to the government to this thing. Like it is incredible.
We don't know how to activate these capabilities, right? We don't.
Well, it's like you can activate it, they just play out differently, right? It's like, okay, maybe now your engineers are way more productive, but it's like, what do you build with that? Maybe the onus is more on the product, and like the whole organization is like an organism, and it's just like now that one part is super, super strong, it's like, how does that play out in the rest of the org? And it definitely doesn't mean you fire all your engineers.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, we've been trying to, so we're about 240 people now. We're trying to get to 400 people by the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. And we're realizing how hard it is to find the skills that we're looking for in the workforce. They're just not there. We go through PM interview after PM interview, and we're looking for skills like vibe coding, using Cursor, knowing how to use Claude Code, using Figma Make, using Lovable accurately to build high quality, high fidelity, user interfaces. And you know what we had to do? We had to build our own course, like a free course that PMs could take, so that we could basically teach them, train them, and see who have the capabilities, because the labor market is not educated in how these tools work. The education system and colleges have not caught up to actually getting their curriculum, in my opinion. And I would love to hear from the people who are more on that side of the space. I feel like there's just a massive training gap. And so organizations like ours, we have to try to fill that to find the people we need.
Yeah, I'll chime in there since I'm in education. I've been in education now 25 odd years, and they form a large chunk of the folks who I work with. I think education is traditionally a slow moving field, and it will move slow no matter what. I think what I've noticed in education is there's always sort of this tech resistance, and so this at first was really just seen as like, here comes another tech trend. And now over the last, I'd say year or so, folks have really started to reflect on the bigger picture here. And we're not just talking about labor market. We're not just talking about workflow. We're actually talking about learning, about like self-reflection, about all the deeper, more complicated human things that we do. And I think what's really struck me over the last 2 years, if you will, was how quickly I have said sort of one foot in the education space, and then I'm also one foot in sort of the AI augmented development space. And I found that teachers started moving way faster once they started to understand this than the engineers were, and the engineers would kept dragging their feet and saying, "Yeah, it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough." And I'm like, "Well, you're not actually trying enough." And I realized, and to me, what that showed me, I was like, teachers have just sort of kind of systemically a growth mindset because they have to, right? They have to assume that they have to teach things, they have to learn new things, and that they're not the masters of their environment. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there was a lot of developers who felt that same way. They felt there was a lot more kind of like bravado around that.
So,
right?
Kunal, are you talking about teachers teaching AI or about teachers adopting AI?
Both, and I'd say both. Okay. Ed, it's teaching AI, yes, but also what is teaching AI, right? It's not, you're not really, you're really teaching thinking, right? You're really teaching self-reflection, context development, trying to understand where you are, what you are, why you're doing the thing you're doing, right? So we're really asking deeper questions. AI is nothing but just a statistical mirror, right? And so it doesn't matter really on that end. Like the AI is fine, like yes, in order for workplace stuff and all that. But as we've already said many times, the capabilities and the breadth of these models increases so quickly that trying to understand the limitations and the frame around a single model, that you're not getting anywhere with that. And so you have to really think mindsets. And so that's really what
the reason I ask is because I've experienced two sides of that same teaching coin. I teach this MBA class, and a few years ago, the students complained that they had trouble finding people to interview for the assignments that I gave them. I asked them to find real people to interview, and they were having trouble. I said, well, why don't I create a fictitious case study that they can access and use and interview this fictitious communications director from a fictitious company that I created. Lo and behold, it's the first acknowledged use case chatbot in higher ed. And the students love it because they don't have to go out and find somebody to interview. They can ask it as many questions as they want. But then the flip side of that coin is the last 2 years, I've noticed, especially this year, that the students have been writing their essays using AI. And it's obvious to anybody who's used GenAI. And so I had to throw out the first assignment and then work with the course designers to redesign all the other assignments for the semester to make them as impervious as possible to AI. So
How did you do that?
it's really tough for teachers right now. Really tough.
And I think that's the question that teachers and education or higher ed, be K-12, whatever it is, that's what we're saying. What does assessment look like? And my stance is actually moving away from assessment as a thing at all, and rather looking at process and context building and all of that. There was an English teacher who I spoke with last year who said, I'm no longer grading essays, I'm only grading prompts. And so AI has to write the essay.
Wow.
And I am going to grade how you reprompt. And you have to reprompt at least 5 times.
That's really cool.
And I'm going to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, we're seeing moving away from assessing what students know to what students can do. So treating learning as a performance has been a big mission for what we do, of having them go through a collaborative, creative problem solving of real world challenges, and then actually assessing that learning as a performance. And the one thing that I've found very fascinating over the past couple of years is still that there's a resistance, the change management, especially in K-12 and higher ed, some that are just downright, resisting altogether, others that are waiting for instruction, and then those that are all in and adopting it. But I think the future of learning and assessment is based on performance as the new rigor, and really treating learning as a performance. We've gone from a knowledge-based economy to a capabilities-based economy, and I feel that that's going to be the true holy grail. Can we truly develop and assess learners, whether they be students or employees and workforce, on what they can actually do versus what they know? And that is, in my world, has been the big transformative shift in not only K-12 higher ed education, but corporate training in general. So how do we do that on a systemic level, developing an innovation culture and a creativity culture, problem solving? I mean, you look at the top 20 skills of WEF or LinkedIn Learning or what have you, and 90% of them are what? Human-based skills, adaptability, leadership, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving. But yet, I don't see a lot of emphasis. We're still stuck on the tools. Give me the tool, the Ozempic pill that will get me to automation as quickly as possible, and cut out all the diet and weight training in between to have me lose those 10 pounds. That's why I like to say, AI is an Ozempic pill versus a transformative AI plus HI plus innovation, something that we call the ultimate skill stack for driving valuation.
One of the things you hit on, and everyone's kind of talked about it, is that the cost to produce stuff has gone a lot, way down. Like Manik, you mentioned Lovable or Figma Make, or you can create this stuff really fast. You mentioned essay, like students using ChatGPT to create essays. Like you can create an incredible volume of stuff really, really fast. And then the big question, I think, for education and for, me as an employer, it's like, how do you teach taste? Like, yeah, you can get the AI thing to generate a ton of code. Is it good code? Is it elegant? Does it do the thing you want in the way you want? Is the product experience great? Is the essay actually good? Not from a grammatically correct position, but is the content actually great? Is it compelling? Is the structure of the argument good? And I guess the question for all of you is how do you think about teaching that? How do you think about instilling that kind of taste you need now that the cost of being able to produce this stuff has gone way down?
If I could I love that point, Paul, very compelling. I think what have also come up in conversation is does the taste level stay as high with so much AI produced work? Work slop, making the rounds is a trendy term. 80-20 has kind of been in principle in a lot of workplaces. And I was, speaking with someone, and do we now go to a world where 40/60 is enough? Are we okay with that? So I think those are some of the kind of reflections we need to have collectively around, is AI maybe driving us to a point of less high quality outputs, and how much of like a detriment is that at the end of the day? What work products can be sufficient at that 40/60 level versus, where do we really lose something essential by letting AI take over too?
I think one of the things we've noticed, that's a great point, Catherine, is it's becoming harder to evaluate candidates, right? Because now the old assessments we had, which is write the essay, anyone can do that, right? And there is sort of like a word blindness. And so now what we're finding is that we have to sort of evaluate thinking and the way that they did the work in a different way, where we're watching and we're looking at how do they problem solve, how are they critically thinking, and also how do they communicate? Because Paul, I think you mentioned this. We have to kind of assume that a lot of the execution of work and labor is going to become automated and essentially zero cost. And so what matters in this environment is actually your ability to do the right thing, to ask the right questions, to be able to communicate and collaborate with other humans, right? Not just robots. But also there is a part of this, which is the cave. How good are you at doing the brain to computer interface yourself? How good are you at using those tools? And so these are two different things that we're watching, but we're trying to evaluate. And so the criteria, the way we used to evaluate people when we're hiring them or even teammates, and we're looking at how do we upskill them, it's now requiring more of like a master level person to be able to provide that type of feedback, right? Whereas it used to be a middle manager could review the assessment that was completed and say, did they hit the objective or did they not? And now there's like this compression where everyone is kind of able to get close. It's really very few people who can get all the way to that like 99th percentile. And it's just become more challenging to evaluate.
Manik, we're actually solving for that with our platform. It's essentially an escape room meets design thinking meets Google Docs on steroids, where a perfect example, we had a chemical engineering company that was hiring for a senior level engineer. They usually would put out a job rec, get 100 resumes, select the top 4, fly them in, and through an interviewing process, hire the best one. However, in this particular case, they put the top 4 in a solvably real world experience relative to that company. And similar to an escape room, they didn't tell the other 3 using avatars that they were, other people going for the same job. So they were able to look through the window of that virtual escape room like experience to really see deep behaviors. Who was influencing when things ratcheted up a bit? Who showed leadership capabilities and skills? Who was more of a persuader influencer versus a follower doer type? And then evaluating all of that using AI gave them more precise information and data on their behavior, what they can do versus what they know, or if they could game an interview than any other interview could possibly do. And so it was really quite fascinating that now we're able to take a learning performance, an experience like an escape room, as if it had a million cameras on it, capturing your every interaction, your every aha moment, your every failed combination lock. And then at the end, providing a report on what skills and capabilities you exhibited through that performance versus what you said in an interview. Very, very fascinating things. But I think we're on the cusp of really taking that to the next level of skills-based, capabilities-based, performance-based assessment and learning.
That's cool. That sounds kind of like the Truman Show meets the Knowledge Olympics.
Yeah, I'd love to share it with you. I think you'd find it fascinating.
Well, cool guys. I want to keep us moving forward through some other topics. Let's advance. So I'm kind of curious your take on this, because I think we've all had a experience with AI, kind of this sort of uncanny valley of what it's able to do in some parts of it that maybe we're uncomfortable with. So I'm asking you guys, what societal or spiritual questions is Gen AI forcing us to confront now today? What do you see there being of interest to you, and how do you feel?
Well, I'm just going to jump ahead of everybody here. Hey, let's go. So my journey really deep into sort of what AI meant for me started through parenting, and which is, not ironic at all, fitting that my little girl's right now. But what I really, and then through education, and sort of one of the real shocking, maybe is the right word. I don't know what the word is, but one of the things that really struck me was how little we generally, as a digitized society, how little we imagine anymore, how little we sort of are okay with long answers, with discomfort. Working with young folks who live in this algorithmically optimized universe, they see frustration as a bug, not a feature of learning. They see, not all of them, right? But many. And there is this, AI to me has been this raw, reflective mirror where a lot of us have said, hey, look, yeah, we adopted it here, but now we don't know what to do. Well, that's on us, because I realized, well, hell, like we're fairly limited creatures. And this thing that can decode our language and create this pretty impressive semantic map of thinking through just that has started to make us question our very humanity. I mean, to me, that feels a little bit fragile, and it feels like we're conflating being a digital consumer / creator with being a human being. And AI is never, ever going to be able to do what I'm doing right now, right? And I could do this in silence, but AI is never going to be able to do that. AI is never going to be able to sit in a room with somebody, right, who has cancer and just sit with them in silence. And for both of you all to feel like there's something there, that's so human. It makes up the vast majority of who we are, if not 99% of who we are. This digital experience that we have makes up such a specific and short-lived in the human experience stretch of existence. Yet we've conflated being human with that so much that we're worried that AI is going to take over something or another. That to me has been sort of the spiritual shakeup that's really hit me over the last couple of years.
It's powerful. Kunal, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. I often think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and is AI going to enable more people to achieve, self-actualization, the peak, fulfillment through creativity and purpose and self-expression? Or are we doing so at the expense of safety? Because truth is difficulty now. Being online isn't necessarily safe. What is real, what isn't real causes consternation. Love and esteem, are those all are those all things that we're skipping over? So I get kind of concerned by that.
Yeah. So you think that it's not living up to its potential in helping people reach that higher level of consciousness, or do you think that it will help us get there?
I think I hope it will, but I remain skeptical. I'm excited about AI replacing human processes and making them much more efficient and feeding people, right? But are we going to be able to rely on that kind of efficiency to achieve self-actualization? I don't know. That's more, I think, in Dr. Gibbard's department.
Yeah, I was going to say Catherine Reverse Psychometricus. I'm curious.
On me for this one. Appreciate it. But yeah, there's so much to kind of reflect on. So for a couple of years, I've been pretty bullish about AI's capability to demonstrate empathy. So prior to, what we've seen more this year, I felt like this was coming, and it's been pretty surreal for it to unfold and then have all these, headlines that are deeply concerning about AI-induced psychosis, all sorts of inappropriate relationships, etc. So I think a lot of warning signs there. But there's also like a really interesting lens to me around, what does it mean to have performative empathy, and can people still gain benefit from that if it is kind of governed appropriately? And so I think it's also been fascinating on the more positive side to see results around, like doctors versus AI's bedside manner, and patients are actually feeling really cared for via these AI tools in a way that they were maybe missing. And so I think there's a whole lens here around what types of relationships can we augment with AI? What is a bridge too far? And I don't think it needs to be completely black and white, where if there are spots in our lives, and especially our working lives, where we don't feel like we're getting that, level of connection and empathy, is there a way that AI can actually play a beneficial role? So it's a really, really nuanced, thought-provoking topic. And I think let's just be mindful consumers is critical.
We talked about the digital natives, right? Adopting to digital technology a generation ago. We'll see AI natives probably adapting to AI technology, just as you described, where it may be a struggle for those of us with graying hair.
Yeah, the other question I think it raises is like the work you do. So like, for the vast majority of human existence, we've been doing, working 70, 80 hours a week on a farm to try to create enough food to live. The Industrial Revolution kind of fixed that. But, like there's just a huge amount of drudgery in like everybody's lives. And if this technology can reduce that drudgery, like a lot of previous big sort of technological waves have, that opens up more time for self-reflection, more time for things that if you're having to work the vast majority of your time, you don't have time to reflect on. And I think that's a tremendous existential thing.
I would make sure that we caution, because the attention economy is a real thing, right? And like for every moment of cognitive surplus we have, there is somebody who's going to vie for that and try to monetize it. And so we made this mistake with social media, where every moment of cognitive surplus we have, now we swipe and we are now being monetized. And so I think it's nice for us to know that we can do that, but whether or not that happens, we have to actually have some sort of modeling where we know that whatever we did before, we're not going to do again. And if we don't willfully say that, then I'm worried that, yeah, sure, we'll have more time, but it's just maybe take more things that are going to take up our attention.
You can't just change people's behavior. Like, people are going to do what they want to do. You're going to have some people who take that time and spend it profitably, and others who waste it. And part of that is a broader question about, can you change culture? Because there's no like collective we, right? It's like everybody acts individually in their own interests.
I think it's going to be one thing that's really interesting is this question of what is actually uniquely human. If, like Ernest Hemingway, his books that he wrote, like those are the artifacts created by a man. But when you have machines that can write prose, they can be creative, they can create fictional stories that are captivating, they can compose music, replicating music and artists in brilliant ways, cross genre, real time, can generate images, voices, passing exams. We have to ask this question: is being human about what we build with our hands and the outputs, or is it something else? Is it about our relationships? Is it about this inner experience? Is it about maybe more about community? So I think some of the bigger questions are: there's consciousness versus computation. There's creativity. Is that a product, or is it a part of a process? And where does the meaning come from? It's not just the output, but where do we draw meaning from the work that we do? And how do we feel about living in a world that's becoming increasingly synthetic, made by machines, the content, the video, the audio? How are we going to feel about this? And how is it going to shift the societal fabric that we're in? I think it's a big topic.
To shed some light on that, Mac, very similarly, spiritually and being in education, the two questions that come to mind for myself, as well as a lot of the students I speak with, is where do I fit in as a human into this future, this uncertain, crazy future? And then the second question of how can I best prepare? And when I think of that second question and even the first question, the first thing that comes to my mind is really problem solve. How can I be a good problem solver? I spoke to 100 community college students not too long ago, and they said, what about job loss? I said, well, the company with the greatest productivity will win. They always win. Oh, well, they're getting mad at me. I'm like, well, that's the way it is. I don't know what to tell you. And then it's like, hold on. So how can we prove that we can 4X or 10X our output for our future employer, current employer, or what have you. Well, the person in this room who could solve a problem the best has probably the greatest chance of earning that job, keeping that job, moving up the ladder, what have you. So how do you then prove that? How do we become good problem solvers? Well, you need a process. You need repetition. You need reps. Like going to the gym. You need tools. You need to master those tools, and you need to be able to prove it. And if you can prove all of that and the outcomes that you can 4x to 10x your output, well, guess what, students and professionals, you have a greater chance to earn that seat in that college that you want to go to earn that job against the other 1,000 candidates that you're going against. But I think it really comes down spiritually to me. Maybe it's because I'm in education and training, is to, where will I fit in as a human? And then how can I best prepare for that right now? Because it is so uncertain and forever changing. And, as old as time, from cavemen, to even before or after that, it's how did they invent the wheel? Well, they were solving for a problem,
Right. But Angelo, how do we not anticipate that an AI model is going to be the best problem solver in 3 to 5 years, better than anyone?
I can't disagree with that.
And then what?
Someone's gonna need to, where we've seen a lot of the magic happen that AI just cannot replicate is putting 4 very different people in a team to solve for the same challenge, different experiences, different perspectives. It's almost the same reason why we are so attracted to sport and live music, because at any given moment, those 4 musicians, one person can make a mistake, or the drummer and the bass player could be so in the pocket one night and so out of it the next night. It's that magic that happens from that human connection that I have yet to see replicate. I'm not saying that it won't happen in the future, but collective, collaborative, creative problem solving is where we've been hanging our hats on, and I've been seeing a lot of magic happen.
And I think that's where, when we had the question around, it's harder to find quality candidates, interview candidates. But I think that if you're trying to isolate them, yes, it's still going to continue to be difficult. But instead, if you're trying to figure out how they work, or how they produce, whatever it is, how they work in a network situation with different people doing different things, i.e. a much more similar situation, what companies are going to look like infrastructure wise with agentic AI, that's what you're really looking for. And so this idea of like isolating a human being and seeing what's in your brain, your brain is going to be superior to another brain. Whereas, in a lot of this, I try to sort of share this when I'm doing my sessions with teachers, is for the longest time, intelligence wasn't in a person's brain. Intelligence was what was in between people. People talked, people had conversation. Intelligence existed in the community in between people. We've turned that into this isolated sort of trophy contest of like, what's in my brain versus what's in your brain. AI is going to defeat all of us if that's what we're going to do, but it cannot defeat us when we're together. That's just not because it's not human. So it just can't do the human things. But again, if we're just sitting here being like, I did this provocation the other day where I was like, we think that this with English teachers, we're so worried that LLMs can write essays, they're not going to be critical thinkers anymore. Well, Moana didn't have a written language. She never wrote ever. Was Moana not imaginative or a creative problem solver? Were pre-literate societies were they not critical thinkers? No, of course they were. Spent far more time being human, not writing, than we have been writing. And so much more of our communication is done like this, not written down, not digitized, therefore not any kind of AI training model. And so again, it's like the spiritual question of who we are as a human, to me, doesn't seem difficult to understand, because I don't see any AI as anything similar to me. It's just this, it's texting, the text. It doesn't have feelings.
AI definitely couldn't have a beard that good. So, guys, I'm curious. So, some of us maybe are optimistic about how this shakes out over the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe some of us are pessimistic. And so I'd love to kind of get your take. Do you guys think that we need to see more guardrails put in place around this technology? Or do you guys think that we'll be safe in a more laissez-faire environment where this technology can be utilized by anyone anyway? And are you more optimistic in that sense?
I don't think there's actually much of a question there, because I don't think there is a universe in which there are guardrails like materially stop progress. Because it's like if progress materially stops in the United States, it won't materially stop in China, and you're still going to get much more advanced AI models, which are currently being open sourced. Maybe they stop being open sourced in this other idea, but it's like you have these two powers that are sort of competing with each other, and neither one is going to hit the brakes, because then the other one would win, and that's a big deal. And it's not going to happen, basically, is my take.
I do think we do need to pay more attention to governance, risk management, and compliance. It seems like a lot of companies are just not paying the attention that is necessary, and data is flying all over the place. And that could be, we may reach a day of reckoning where lawsuits are just flying all over and things are pretty crazy. But, without deep regulation, I think sensibility to governance, risk management, compliance, even for small business, is something that we've overlooked and leapfrogged to some extent. But my take on that is, the investment in innovation, creating an innovation culture, using AI as a tool is going to be what separates the companies that gain the greatest productivity advantage versus all the other companies that continue to level up. Like Copilot, for example, a great solution for generating automation systemically across a company, but in a year or 18 months, every company will be leveled up to that automation standard. It's those companies that are now investing in an innovation culture, the human intelligence to drive real solutions to problems, that I think had the opportunity now to, as they say in F1 racing, pass 15 cars in the ring and gain that, that huge productivity advantage. And that's my take. But I think, governance, risk management, compliance, not government regulation. I want to separate those two pretty distinctly. I'm just so fascinated how we've just shown no care in some cases on where the data is going, how it's going, how do we manage it, and so on.
Okay. Interesting. So Angela, you're a little bit more cautious and you see some risks emerging. Paul, you feel like we don't really have a chance, like a shot, like we have to continue down the track we are. Otherwise our adversaries, because we're all from the United States, will beat us. And so economically, we don't really have the ability to pump the brakes.
Yeah, I'm saying more. That's just like what I think is going to happen, sort of regardless, because there's this like higher level game theory, basically. Because I'm obviously not the person making those decisions. But I think the other thing is, like, once you let technology out of the bag, it's out. Like there's extremely capable reasoning models that are open source right now. If you cut off all like AI progress in all domains, we still have incredibly capable open source models that could be anywhere on any computer, can run on my MacBook. So it's like it's out there, and I think it's sort of a fool's errand to try to just stop it. It's just basically not possible.
So instead of like thinking of it like, hey, we have to pump the brakes on the entire progression of the industry as a whole, is it possible that we can actually have the industry advance very quickly, but have the panacea, the shield, the protection actually be empowered by the same technology, by AI, to deliver a society that's safer, that is less risky and delivers our values in a more cohesive way? Can we actually use this technology to build a better world around us that's not full of deep fakes and, fake AI generated video content that's just made to get clicks and traffic, and just basically, the dead internet theory of just crap filling the internet and not a lot of value? Maybe there is a world where we can do that, because I think right now we've way over indexed on intelligence and we've under indexed on wisdom. I see this in spades in so many areas of society. And when I look at entrepreneurs and what they're working on, because there are so many pots of gold that they can all go down, they're all pursuing them economically, despite the fact of asking the question, is this something that should be brought into existence or not?
Yeah, if I can just quickly add there, Manik, that really, really resonates. And that's, in one of our recent papers, just because you can doesn't mean you should. AI maximalism, is that something we wanted to really lean into? And what are the costs if we do so? So I just wanted to quickly add that I am team governance, and I hope for that type of future just articulated.
Me too. Paul, how about you? What do you think about it?
I also don't like AI slop is just a bad thing in general. Like it makes the whole internet experience much worse. Like work slop is a term that's both funny but also relatable because it is a real thing. So the question though is like, how do you cut down on the bad side effects of AI without giving up the most important, like valuable parts of it? And that's the thing, like I don't have an answer to that. So I would say we shouldn't be like not letting Anthropic release Claude Opus 5, which will be dramatically better, even though it will produce more slop than other models, because it will represent a material step in like coding abilities and the ability for humans to do extremely productive things. So it's like, yeah, I would love for there to be no slop and the internet to be way cleaner, but like there just doesn't seem like there's an easy solution here to me. Does anyone else think there is?
Just like to quickly add from my field of work psychology, it really is what we reward, right? So I think that's having those conversations internally as organizations. Are we willing to reward, back to my earlier example, like a 60% good enough report? Is that something we want to stand behind? And so I think kind of recalibrating those expectations internally is where we need to get to. Because I was reading some recent work where it's, like I send an AI generated email to you and your AI reads it and responds. And it's just like, it's getting a little out of hand and feeling like we're diluting the quality of what we could be working on.
No, I completely agree. I think the question there is like, that's why I brought up the thing about taste, because it's like, AI should let you raise the bar dramatically on what the final output should be. It's like, if you're able to draft a sort of mid essay in like 3 seconds, you shouldn't be drafting a mid essay in 3 seconds. You should be taking the same amount of time you were before, but your output should be phenomenal.
Yeah.
So it's like the standards need to raise everywhere, but then it's like, it's almost more of a culture question. It's like, how do you change the culture and raise standards broadly speaking? It's like, we really try to do that in our company, but that's one small sphere.
Absolutely. And just to kind of add credence to that as well, there was this recent stat from our team, 90% of employees have submitted AI generated work without revising it at all, right? So like vast majority of employees have had that experience of doing that 3-second first and clicking send.
Yeah. And more coming, 10%, I saw a stat, 10% of all adults in the world are using ChatGPT, 10%. That's going to climb. It's going to keep growing in the parts of the world that aren't still connected to the internet. All that's going to continue to advance. And so what we're going to see is more of this. One thing that makes me very uncomfortable is when you think about the end game of this and you think about intelligence being bottled into the servers of OpenAI and Claude and other model providers. We're seeing this massive concentration of compute, energy, and intelligence that becomes more and more pronounced over time. The amount of power of data centers that are accessible, both corporate as well as government, that's accelerating, and there's no hedge against that. There's no opposite to that. You and me and all of us that are here, maybe we have like a nice Mac on our desk, but we don't have a server farm. And so in the end game of this, how do we protect against super concentration of power and super concentration of intelligence? How do we keep that? How do we make a hedge to that? If you think it's important, which I really think that's probably one of the most important questions.
No, I absolutely agree. It's super important. I wish the analysts had it.
We may end up back at human intelligence at some point.
Expand on that, Angela. What do you mean?
Well, at the end of the day, once like you said, if all the AI intelligence and servers were in the hands of a few, what do we have left? We go back to problem solving like the cavemen did, and inventing the wheel, solving the problems out of survival and necessity, which is why I don't think we should ignore it. I often talk about the equation AI plus HI equals innovation innovation equals V to the X, because innovation drives valuation. How do you get to innovation? Well, human intelligence drives innovation. Once you add AI, valuation goes to the exponential power. And a friend of mine the other day said, well, and what they're doing is, they're removing the HI piece. Companies are trying to reduce employees with AI. And I said, oh, well, that's very interesting. If we take that to the equation and balance both sides, we could take the square root of V versus evaluation of value creation, then saying V to the X power. So similarly, if we took AI out of the equation, what do we have left to drive innovation and value but good old-fashioned human intelligence, problem solving, collaboration, just like the cavemen and women used to do it.
We got to wrap up, unfortunately. We're almost at time here. Before we go, I'd love to invite each of you an opportunity for some self-promotion. Our audience is at your disposal. We'll go clockwise with Monik first. Where would you like to send the audience?
Would love to send them to my YouTube channel. So Monik Bond on YouTube, as well as searchatlas.com if you're a business owner, if you're a startup, if you're an agency, digital marketer, and you're looking to use the most advanced agentic SEO and PPC technology on the planet, check out searchatlas.com and join our challenge next week. We're going to be doing a 5-day how to get ranked inside AI search engines and LLMs and Google using agents. So hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you for participating today. Appreciate your time. Angela, real quick, 30 seconds. Where would you like to send it, please?
Yeah, solvably.com, the first collaborative creative problem-solving platform by performance. Learners work in teams, solve for real-world challenges, do authentic assessment. We provide deep analytics with our credibly.ai-powered engine into skills, innovation, feasibility, and implementation. So it's if you're a small or a large corporation who's looking to systemically drive an AI, HI innovation culture systemically, if you're one of the few that really get it, we can help you do that with evidence, measurable impact, and at scale. And we guarantee our results too. So you have guaranteed ROI as part of that. And thanks for the opportunity, Jonathan.
You're welcome. Appreciate you coming by today. Doug, where'd you like to send the audience?
I'm just a guy.
Sure.
If we connect with me on
your LinkedIn profile, maybe?
On LinkedIn, yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're an organization that's interested in doing more with data, generating use cases, I've actually created a digital twin of all of my research writing and the 1,000+ real world use cases of data analytics and AI in use that my clients get to have access to help generate ideas and vet ideas.
Excellent. Thank you for coming by today. Catherine, anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah, so similar to Doug, I'm just a girl. Please check me out. Would love to connect with you there. And I'm always publishing our latest future of work research, so promoting all of our team's work that is really linking AI in the workforce. So there's lots of great content there, long reports, short videos, all sorts of stuff. So feel free to connect.
Appreciate it. And Kunal, what about you? I think you're muted. Can I unmute you? No, you got to do it. There you go.
But please, you can go to aiparentology.com. That's just like what it sounds like, aiparentology.com. That's where most of my parenting work, but also you can find a link to the newest edition of my newest book, Our Incredible Fragile Moment. I'm struggling with the name of my own book. And my work is around leadership and agentic AI. So both in terms of the software element of agentic AI, but also what can we learn about human organization, human collaboration, common memory, things like just how do we reimagine how we work with one another from our learnings from deep infrastructure systemic AI.
Excellent. Thank you for coming by today. Very cute kid. And last but not least, our participating sponsor from Zelenic, Paul.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Paul Blankley, and you can check out Zenlytic. Zenlytic is an analytics agent that lets you answer questions about your data and get answers fast instead of waiting in a queue talking to a human data analyst.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. And I have a few housekeeping things to wrap up with here. First and foremost, if you'd like to dive deeper into this topic, we encourage you to join the always-on community at InsightJam.com, the home for the human conversation. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Over 1 million folks already have, and they're enjoying weekly podcasts, panel highlights, expert advice, live programming, and a whole lot more. Well, that will do it for this discussion. And as it is the final panel of the 7th Annual Insight Jam Live, I want to give special thanks to the entire Solutions Review team who accomplished the Herculean task of scheduling, recording, editing, and sharing over 25 hours of video coverage in just 2 weeks. I especially want to single out my coworkers Malia Hayter, Ryan Dowley, Tim King, Connor Kerrigan, and Will Jetma. I could not have done this without you. And to the 100-plus experts, thought leaders, and panelists who were gracious with their time and knowledge this week, we greatly appreciate you. That will do it for now. We hope to see you again in Q1 for the mini jam. But until then, my name is Jonathan Paula. Thank you for watching. We hope you have a great holiday season and a happy new year. Until next time.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit InsightJam.com.